Talking season's almost over. We're at the very end of it.
We're close, man.
Teams prepare for the start of the season. I, for one, am psyched about that. Hutton, I'm doing well.
Good to hear.
Yeah.
Good to hear. You mentioned talking season. It's what we do. It's what Pat McAfee does. Except he hasn't talked about Caitlin Clark on his program since, well, he called her a white bitch, is what he referred to her as.
Yes, quotations. That's not us saying that. That was the quotation marks around it.
Yeah, that's right. And we will set that up as you hear this, because he was talking with Rich Eisen, and Eisen brought up this topic.
Right?
The universe. The universe.
Yeah, sent some messages.
Yeah, God came in and was like, you know what, pal? Probably go ahead and stop it.
I had no idea about that. Did you have a different universe? By the way, we're back on the Roku channel.
Oh, it's great to be back. Hey, this is a good universe.
You're back. You're back. I've got about a minute and 50 seconds till the radio audience rejoins, and it'll be a big audience. So listen, why is the universe telling you not to talk about Caitlin Clark?
Because I'm an idiot. The reason is because I'm an idiot. And I want to say, we are big supporters. We took show to Iowa to support during the first day of men's March Madness to launch the women's March Madness, because just wanted to catch the vibe of what Iowa was with Caitlin Clark on camp. I think what she has done, obviously, remarkable. Now, it's the whole rookie class and yada, yada, yada. We get it. United States Olympic team wrecked tickets, so I'm not even getting into it. But nonetheless, I am dumb, and the way I speak, not good. And multiple times, God has come in and been like, you need to stop.
Well, plus you're big in Iowa, though, because you chose Iowa to beat Michigan in the Big Ten championship game, Pat, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Nobody in Iowa remembered that. I want to let you know that nobody in Iowa remembered that when I was going through it. But there was a...
My bad.
There was a chance.
Okay.
There was a chance in Michigan. No, it's not your bad at all. It's 100% my bad, actually. That's what we're kind of getting to.
So there's McAfee, and actually talking about Caitlin Clark, by the way, as he talks to Rich Eisen, saying that God and the universe came in and told him to stop talking about her after, well, this happened back in June.
The GOAT. Is she what? I don't know. I just, with my eyes, I couldn't see if she's Caucasian or not. So I think what we're trying to say is what the WNBA currently has is what we like to describe as a cash cow. There is a superstar. And we're not saying that the players on the court need to act any differently. That's the athletes are going to do what athletes are going to do in any sport. And I think we're all learning that WNBA, that's old school football, baby. That is old school football. But I would like the media people that continue to say, this rookie class, this rookie class, this rookie class. Nah, just call it for what it is. There's one white bitch for the Indiana team who is a superstar. And is it because she stayed in Iowa, put an entire state on her back, took a program from nothing to a multiple-year success story? Is it because she would go on to break the entire points records in the history of the NCAA? Not just the women's record by Kelsey Plum, shout out, but also Pistol Pete Maravich's, the dude's record as well. Is there a chance that people just enjoy watching her play basketball because how electrifying she is, what she did, what she stood for, how she went about going, what she went for? Maybe. But instead, we have to hear people say that we only like her because she's white. And she's the only popular because the rest of the rookie class is doing what they're doing. Well, that's a bunch of bullshit. And we think the WNBA, more specifically, their refs need to stop trying to screw her over at every single turn. What you have is somebody special. And we're lucky she's here in Indiana. And that was, guess which, WNBA rookie.
So there is McAfee back on June 3rd. He, I believe, then boarded a flight, got off the flight after that show, and the social media post had blown up, and he apologized for it.
Say goodbye to my mentions.
Yeah.
That type of thing.
And did not talk Caitlin Clark much, if at all, on his show since then, until he's referring to Caitlin Clark yesterday with Rich Eisen. And Awful Announcing had a story on his comments yesterday. OutKick did as well. But McAfee responded on social to the Awful Announcing headline and said that it's not true that ESPN told him not to talk about Caitlin Clark. This isn't true. I said, quote unquote, God and quote unquote the universe told me to stop talking about it. That was through me saying something that inevitably always caused full chaos. It wasn't great for my life or for the program. You took a completely false headline from an asinine account and amplified it. ESPN has zero say over my show. Thanks again. Cheers. I'll be honest, when I hear him discuss it with Rich Eisen, Chad, I understand why someone would think that whenever he says he heard, he talked to God in the universe, that to me says in reference to up top at ESPN. Why else would you reference it that way?
I thought the opposite. I didn't take that at all.
I think
here's what I want to.
Then why wouldn't you talk about it?
Here's why. We just had a guest on our show, Ryan Leaf, and got national attention, coverage everywhere. He referred to Pat McAfee and Kirk Herbstreit as overly sensitive narcissists. Okay?
Yeah.
I don't know these guys well enough to say that one way or the other. But if you look at the history of Pat McAfee, that dude is affected by his at mentions. I mean, he has gone off about, well, all of you don't like me on College Game Day, and you want your football with old guys in football, so maybe I should step away. Like, he's really over dramatic on social media about negative reactions. He doesn't like it. He does not like to be criticized. No human does. I don't think anyone's out there saying, you know what I want today? I want a bunch of people to come and start talking shit about me. No one really likes that, but some are more comfortable with it than others. Kirk Herbstreit's another one. Go back and read that guy responding to random fans with a school's logo account on Twitter and just going nuts on them. So when I hear Ryan Leaf say that he thinks that Pat McAfee and Kirk Herbstreit had say in him getting fired at ESPN, I believe it. First off, I believe they're that powerful at ESPN, and I believe they're that sensitive about things and about criticism where they would talk to someone and not be happy about it. Do I know the details about it? Do I know that they went into ESPN management and said, it's either him or me? No, I don't know any of that. But I do think they would take issue with it. So now let's get to this story. When he's saying that God in the universe told me to stop talking about it, I really think it's just him being angry at the overly negative reaction to it and the fact that everyone was mad at him. And he don't want to talk about it anymore because people don't like him because of it. Because he's online, he's on social media, and everyone's complaining about his words. And I think he's saying God in the universe. He's not literally saying God spoke to me and said this. It's him saying every time I talk about it, i.e. the last time I talked about it and said that, everyone was angry with me. Everyone was writing negative articles about it. And then I had to come back and apologize about it. And I'm not doing it anymore because now the whole topic makes me mad because you were mad about it. I don't think ESPN had anything to do with it.
Well, but
and I know that I'm probably in the minority here, but I believe him when he says ESPN has zero say over my show. I believe what he's saying. I don't think they said anything to him about it.
So he's also sensitive when it comes to anyone thinking that ESPN has say over his show. That's what he has mainly been responding to in headlines back with Norby Williamson to the Caitlin Clark reaction and apology. But keep in mind, I think there's also, you have to take into account who he's saying this to. He's saying it to a former ESPN anchor in Rich Eisen. And the way he references, we're going to cue this up again. Listen to how he says it. I understand how someone would believe he's referencing ESPN here.
Right?
The universe. The universe.
Yeah, sent some messages.
Yeah, God came in and was like, you know what, pal? Probably go ahead and stop it.
I had no idea about that. Did you have a different universe? By the way, we're back on the Roku channel.
Oh, it's great to be back. Hey, this is a good universe.
You're back. I've got about a minute and 50 seconds till the radio audience rejoins.
That's the reference at the beginning of that. Again, awful announcing, which I believe they deleted the tweet that McAfee responded to on X. But in that reference, because he's saying it to Eisen, it's almost like an underlying just, we know who we're talking about.
You know how that goes. I mean, look, it's possible, certainly.
But
I just didn't, when I first heard it, I did not take it that way at all. I took it as, here's a guy who does not like getting overly criticized. He got overly criticized about that mishap before. So now he's the type that's like, all right, fine, I'm never going to mention Caitlin Clark again because I've gone out of my way to support her. And as he referenced, we went to Iowa at the start of March Madness.
Oh, yeah.
And I've done this and that. Caitlin Clark didn't say, hey, no problem. She's been silent about it. Not like she had his back. and said, hey, I know Pat. I've been on a show. It's fine. No one had his back. I mean, it could be anger at Caitlin Clark's camp.
The way we responded,
someone could have said something to him about it.
He's like, fine, I'm not going to talk about it. We understood his reference, though. It was not in a
no.
We're taking a shot at Caitlin Clark.
He's not calling.
Going back to our show on the 4th.
It's about.
Yes.
If you take everything literally, then yeah, what he said is inexcusable. But he's not actually calling Caitlin Clark a bitch.
Right.
He's talking about the response and how people would talk to other humans in America.
And that would be
about Caitlin Clark dominating the league. And he's saying it almost as a compliment that what other players would say about her.
And that was our reaction then.
That.
And others had that same thought, but within the ESPN universe and the bubble there, and knowing about the WNBA property and the fact that every game's going to be on ESPN with her, I get why the sentiment would be within that building or within that company, hey, lay off. We're not going to stir this pot and get anyone upset from the Caitlin Clark camp on us, because this is our cash cow in the middle of the summer where it's baseball or bust. Again,
which I think he's actually helping the Caitlin Clark interest with that in a roundabout way.
And
for ESPN.
Well, but like I don't understand the reason why so many people care whether or not the execs at ESPN would ask Pat McAfee not to do something.
I don't see any evidence that they've done a lot of that or any of that so far.
In fact, they've had nothing but have his back. But he also respects there are a handful of people that he always references when he's talking about who he deals with at ESPN and Disney. So, he mentions Bob Iger a lot. So, I think they're on great terms. But if you're just having a casual conversation after a show like that, and he's apologizing, and he talks to, while he says he doesn't have a boss, he definitely has friends within the company that are as high as you can get. It doesn't mean that it's a directive, hey, don't talk about this, but, hey, maybe, let's not cause something every week to where we're having to respond to something.
Yeah, do I think that Mina Kimes hated it and that bubble at ESPN? Sure.
And
I
who
think
would they
probably
complain to?
It.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, they would. I'm just going by evidence of what that show's been since he went to ESPN. It's been pretty much the same. And he's gotten away with stuff, including calling out, ESPN bosses at times. So I got no reason to believe that he's lying about them not interfering with his show on this. I know I'm in the minority here. I really believe the dude got mad that people were mad at him. I think he loves the love. And like a lot of athletes and very successful people, they have long memories and they have a chip on their shoulder about everything. And if you say something negative about them or wrong them, they're not going to forget about it. When he called out Norby Williamson, remember what he referenced? Dude called me in for a meeting, and I had a meeting with him, and he made me wait for 2 hours or whatever the time was. Right. He's not forgetting that. So the next time something negative happens when he's on the same team as the guy, he's going to go back to that immediately. I think Pat McAfee reads his mentions and sees all those people calling him a misogynist and all these things about his Caitlin Clark name calling, and he's pissed off about it. So he just decides, fine, no more Caitlin Clark talk. You people can't handle it. You're going to get mad at me regardless, even though it was a harmless joke. So I'm not going to talk about it. And then that's how he handles it with Rich Eisen.
Well, but he, ultimately, maybe they did, maybe they didn't say something to him about it. He's also someone as sensitive as he's shown himself to be on social. He will double down on it. While he said, if you don't want me on game day, maybe it's just not for that audience and I'm not good. Guess what he did? He returned to College Game Day because he said, why wouldn't I stay on this show? So why wouldn't he talk Caitlin Clark when literally everyone is talking Caitlin Clark? He's in Indiana. The Fever are right there. She's been on the show. He's presented her with a Colts jersey. There's plenty of reasons why he would double down.
And see, I think all those reasons
and have the conversation to get her back in.
All of those reasons are the same reasons he's pissed off at Caitlin Clark and everyone around that story and does not even want to mention her name again. Because I believe that he expected her and her camp to have his back, and they went silent on it. They could have easily said, I know it's a joke. She could have laughed it off. She could have posted something on social media with her and Pat together. There's a lot of things that could have happened. And when she didn't say anything, I thought that was weird for all those reasons because they had such a good relationship. And if anyone would understand it was an attempt at a joke, it would be her. And she left him hanging. She didn't say it was okay. She said nothing about it.
He apologized to everyone and her directly. But, you know,
this is one I'm not mad.
She's also not said very much about anything.
I'm not mad for anyone interpreting it the way you are, Hutton, about ESPN. My mind just did not immediately go there when I just played the video, not reading anything about it beforehand, just playing the audio, listening to it. I didn't immediately think about that, but I did think about what Ryan Leaf told us.
Sure.
About his relationship with Caitlin Clark in Indianapolis, about knowing how pissed off he'd get about the reaction to it, and him having to apologize about it or explain it and all those things. And when that person doesn't come back and say it's okay, then, my reaction might be, fine, never mentioning them again. That was too much of a headache. I don't even want to talk about it anymore. So I tend to believe him in his tweet about ESPN not having say over his show, and this was actually the universe. I look more to not the God part of it, but the universe told me to stop talking. The universe is everyone that heard that and complained about it. That's who he's talking about, to me.
Well, and since then, he's had the contract negotiations about game day and all that.
Yeah. Now, look, I don't think him re-signing with game day is going to stop him from going back at someone on social media when they criticize somebody does on game day. Like, he's not the type of guy, and it's part of what makes him really good at his job. He's not the type of guy who just buries his head in a gopher hole and then doesn't know what's going on around him or know what's being said about him or being said to him. He's going to respond.
Yeah, and apologize, by the way.
Yeah, Kirk Herbstreit's the same way. They're going to know what's being said about them.
He's apologized, though, a couple times. Not up to Norby Williams. Not anything about that, right?
Yeah.
But for, making things about him or stirring the pot. He's even said, like, I'm not trying to make a political show here on anything we're doing. We're just hanging out with the guys, right? Mm-hmm. Like, that's intentional. And so are certain apologies. And there are certain athletes, I guarantee you, if you talk crap about LeBron, that's not going to go over well within ESPN. And I think Caitlin Clark is the exact same shelf right now for them. Just there's this very small group of those type of athletes.
But it's weird to me because, yes, she is a huge part of ESPN's plan right now. And let's face it, every media company that covers sports plan. If you're talking about sports, you're talking about Caitlin Clark right now. It's important to everyone. Yeah. But they do seem to support some negative talk about her if it's the right type of negative talk.
Right. But
if it is black women that either play in the WNBA or cover the WNBA or are reporters on a show, and they say certain things about Caitlin Clark needing to earn it, and Angel Reese is actually the MVP right now or the Rookie of the Year, and this and that, all that's fine.
Yeah, that's the debate that they
coming
create,
across
but it's not
as
a debate.
misogynistic or using that term as he did, then that's, you can't do that, can't joke about it, or can't talk about how the league, basically who was it, Shaq and others have said, the rest of the league needs to stop. Charles Barkley said it. The rest of the league needs to stop being jealous about Caitlin Clark.
Yeah. And
Shannon Sharp went on a big thing on his podcast. The exact words he said, which is really funny, he said, all these WNBA women and women's basketball, they're mad that this, quote, corn-fed white girl from Iowa is busting their ass. That's what they're mad about, and they need to stop with the criticism of her because of that, which I found hilarious.
Well, I mean, but it's...
I can't do a Shannon Sharp impression, or I would have right there, but it would have been really bad. So I'm not going to do that. I'd been having to issue an apology tomorrow,
You'd be
too.
apologizing for the
Pat
God of
McAfee,
the universe to be telling you to apologize?
OutKick execs would have asked me to apologize for something for the first time ever.
Well,
I can't confirm we've never been asked to apologize for anything here.
No.
Whether you believe Pat McAfee or not about his orders, we've never been asked to apologize.
And I believe, like, he's saying, like, I'm not that there's no one telling me what to do, but he's friendly enough with those within that company that he will take a suggestion instead of taking a directive. And he's again, he decided to apologize about it.
Yeah,
I believe that, but to not even mention her since June 3rd or whatever it was, like that comes up in conversation because what's happened since June 3rd?
Yeah, look,
a lot of headlines about Caitlin Clark, the Olympics, all of it.
It's feasible. It's just it's not where my mind went. My mind went to what Ryan Leaf told us. And I went to the universe is telling me he got a lot of blowback from it, and it irritates him. So and I think anybody would be like this, by the way. I would just be like, fine, I'm never talking about that again because I'm tired of dealing with it. Like, you get exhausted by something that you think is a mishandling of the situation or misrepresentation of who you are. You don't want to talk about it anymore. You want to be done with it. And Pat McAfee's like the rest of us with that. So I don't blame him if that's the case. That's just where I took it. If you or anyone else takes it as ESPN told him and that's what he was saying, I'm fine with that too. Because that is possible, certainly,
I'm not saying,
someone said maybe you
I'm not
shouldn't
saying
be talking about
I
that
truly
way.
believe that he was told. I'm only saying I understand why some people would take it that way based on who he's talking to. It'd be like talking to Dan Patrick
now,
in the same way.
I understand how people could take it that way. I will fight back on that's the way it had to be taken. Because there's a lot of things I've seen that's like, oh, he's absolutely referring to ESPN, awful announcing the story.
If he
was kind of alluding to that, I'm thinking, no, it's not. I don't think it's obvious. He could be, but I didn't take it that way the first time I heard it.
It's like anybody that would be in in the old school ESPN realm, or even like if Dan Orlovsky's on the show and he made the reference with Dan Orlovsky.
Yeah.
About the same thing. I would take it that way.
Dan, do you think we should protect our daughters? That'd be my first question for Dan Orlovsky next time he comes on.
Dan's not going to talk about. He's not going to mention daughters ever again.
Yeah. It's fine. I'm done talking about women under the age of 18 ever again. Protecting them, anything. How we should nurture them. I'm done talking about it forever.
Doesn't necessarily fall in line with the company values.
I mean, honestly, if I recalled hosting a show like this where it's heavy opinion and conversation, if I said something and got called into a meeting and like, hey, maybe don't say the word this way or don't do that or maybe you should apologize, my response would be Pat McAfee's. It would be, screw it, I'm never speaking that person's name again. I don't want to talk about it ever again.
But
you can let anyone else talk about it, but I'm not. That would be my response to that.
Okay, but if you truly go down that path, then you would end up talking about it because so many people would annoy you by assuming that you were told not to talk about it. So then you would end up talking about it again.
I would
prove that you were told not to, that you're telling the truth about it. So if you want to make a point now, if you're Pat McAfee, based on that, now you talk Caitlin Clark every day.
I would be a smartass about it and just talk about it in a way that I would want to, in a funny way, just to me and nobody else, but without talking about it.
Now you know who.
That's what I would do. That's how I would handle it. I'm not saying that's the right way to handle it. I'm telling you how I would handle that situation.
You know who.
This is not me giving young broadcasters the blueprint for how to act or handle a situation.
Are they broadcasters?
I'm telling you, Chad Withrow would handle it this way, and that way would be: you call me into an office and tell me what to say or do. I get irritated and say I'm never talking about that thing again, and then I go on air and be a smartass about it anytime the topic comes up.
You know who handles.
That's why Hutton loves me.
Yes, I love Chad. You know who keeps more receipts than Pat McAfee with social and news is
who's that?
Deion Sanders.
Yes, he does. Coach Prime.
The latest that everyone's going to be wondering when he's going to comment on this is through Sports Illustrated. He's already not talking to anyone related and associated with CBS. Now it's going to be SI because in a report from Sports Illustrated, former Colorado special teams coordinator Trevor Riley. Connor Stallions was last year's big name. Now it's Trevor Riley. He sought funding for Colorado's NIL football program and collective group. He sought private funding, according to this report through Sports Illustrated, from the Public Investment Fund in Saudi Arabia. And spent time during the holidays traveling to the Middle East, soliciting funding for NIL through the Public Investment Fund, and then resigned and referenced how he went through all of his Mormon community bank accounts and money, and now he's got friends of his in the Mormon community that will not speak to him. He can't get these people to answer calls from him now, and then admits that he traveled to the Middle East seeking private funding on his own accord, and then says, hey, you pay me $90,000 a year. You let me handle special teams. I did all this work in your name, was told to pursue it, and I burned through all my contacts. This was in his resignation letter recently to Rick George, the AD, and to Deion Sanders. Wouldn't you know it, but Colorado has not commented, even though the way he references this Chad in this resignation letter. Trevor Riley also reportedly says that he has email receipts that can prove he tried to secure funding, but Colorado let all this just fall flat on its face. How do you take that? If you've got
why did he resign? Is it just over
we
his
don't
pay?
know. No, we don't know.
And August 1st is an odd time for a special teams coach to resign.
I agree.
I'm confused about I understand all of this is coming from his resignation letter that SI has obtained and what he's saying about the private investment fund and everything else. I don't understand why he resigned. Was it just because he was trying to get more money than $90,000 a year?
Well,
and he's going through everything he did to help the program, and then he resigned?
I think he got this deal done and then came back after.
Well, he said there was a lot of interest.
I think after making arrangements and securing certain things that he was pursuing, he comes back and Colorado didn't agree. This is my opinion, agree with the terms or whatever. And now he's on the hook for whatever he's promised. Again, that's how I assume this, because otherwise, why would you be so pissed off if your team or your program said, no, we're not going to accept money from the public investment fund?
Well,
that you went out and did on your own and you admit here.
Yeah, let's take a victory lap here for this show, because we pointed this out when the private investment fund and Live thing started.
Sure.
I think one of I don't even remember who it was, but we had a conversation about what happens when one program decides to partner with the Saudi private investment fund.
And I brought this up.
And they
what
just
happens
fund a program.
When a conference does it? I said a while back, if I was the Pac-12 and you want to stay alive, you know what I mean? Or you want to keep all these teams who are trying to bolt. You want to keep all these teams. You have.
But this to me is even more significant for this reason. They could upset the entire balance of a sport.
Well,
because Colorado could be Georgia or Alabama or Ohio State overnight.
Or you do.
If you just outbid everyone 5-1,
but all you have
10-1, you could get all the best players.
Why wouldn't you buy the new super conference instead? Which they could do too.
Yeah, and that's more. But again, this is different. And let me tell you what I'm talking about here. Live is a league, right? It's a league that they own. Them getting involved in individual soccer clubs is more akin to this, because this is the private investment fund taking over one program, one team inside of a sport and making that team a contender. A program that's been a perpetual loser for a while. So if Colorado was able to become that team, boy, the implications of that would have been huge. Not just, Live now owns, they own 52% or 51% of college football in a super league that forms, which is possible at some point down the road. That's also something. But if this happened specifically with the story, that would have been crazy. It's smart from a finance standpoint, okay? People can talk about moral implications, all of that. Clearly, the Mormon community was not happy with his decision to do this. I'm confused about the Mormon part of this. Is he talking about his Mormon connections would not provide to the NIL, or he's got other business ventures with the Mormon community that he's trying to get into now that he's resigning, and now they won't return his calls? I don't know what's going on with that.
Here's what he wrote, according to Sports Illustrated, in his resignation letter. I burned through all my contacts in my Mormon community, which is worth about $3 trillion. Now I can't get these people to answer my calls because I just found out today that none of my endeavors will happen. So they didn't accept anything that he came back with, that he went out to pursue. And I will say that I view this more like, if they're interested in doing it at Colorado, which, I mean, Chad and I would assume for a long time, they're interested in doing just about it. NFL, by the way, I've said this too, will be playing a game there at some point, preseason or otherwise. Trevor Riley, a special teams coordinator making $90,000 a year, has access to the public investment fund. Imagine how many people would have connections across college football.
Yeah, he says he's got receipts too. He's got emails back and forth that confirm that he's dealt with them and talked to them and visited the Middle East.
Over to the Middle East during the holidays to pursue name, image, likeness, and collective donations, funding. If he's got that access, this is more like, to me, the recruitment process where He's going over there based on a connection where he's been pursued as well. And it's like for lack of a better way to explain it in my mind, Nike. Nike is a huge supporter of Oregon, but they've got shoes and deals across all of college football. And
so they can't be too into it with Oregon. But they can't tilt the balance of power completely.
They have so many connections that one of their teams will win. And you ultimately end up being the brand. If you want to get to the NFL and college football, you spread it out like this through the collectives. But again, it wouldn't take Trevor Riley doing it on his own accord to grab that access. Of course they're interested. I think he just randomly goes on this, crusade to the Middle East. This journey across.
Here's where they're failing, and I think it's what Trevor Riley's hinting at. You don't send Trevor Riley there if you want to close the deal. You send Coach Prime. You send Rick George, the AD. I'm sure whoever he emailed with or dealt with said, this sounds fine. We got a ton of money. We're interested in the college football space. We'd be interested in giving you a sizable donation in return for this, this, and this for you to go get your players. But I need to talk to the person in charge, which is the school president, the AD, or Coach Prime. And I think all three of them are saying, yeah, we're not ready to go there just yet, so we're not going to pursue this. And then this guy gets pissed off, and in his resignation is saying, I couldn't get any cooperation. I had this multi-million-dollar deal, and I couldn't get cooperation from the athletic department. It's a crazy story that's also not getting talked about enough, I feel like.
Now, here's where I read this. I also think, okay, this is through Colorado, who just joined. It was back in the Big 12, and the Big 12 is accepting private equity money now in funding. All of this, to me, connects. And if you want to just get the scope of college football, you just own one of the Power 3 or Power 4, and they have to listen to you because you've got the money. That's why everyone's listening to the SEC and the Big Ten. Again, it makes too much sense based on what we've seen from the Saudi Public Investment Fund.
We got a documentary coming out about Connor Stallions. Please make this guy the next documentary. I want to know about his dealings with the Mormon community. I want to see his adventures in the Middle East.
Riding with Riley.
Yeah, Lawrence of Arabia storms Riyadh on a quest to find money for
Riley
Colorado football. I can't wait. Riley in Arabia is a great name for the doc. We just got tons of good ideas. We called this shot before, and now Riley of Arabia is a docuseries we'd love to see.
Front Office Sports got comment, I believe. Let me read this.
From Colorado?
AJ Perez. This is from X. The University of Colorado tells Front Office Sports it was not involved in Trevor Riley's effort to secure NIL money from Saudi Arabia's public investment fund. The former assistant traveled to the Middle East last winter, Sports Illustrated reported Thursday. But he admits that he did this on his own accord in his resignation letter, which we mentioned.
Well, I wonder if they would have accepted the money had the deal gone through. Probably. Would be my guess.
Didn't accept the terms, whatever it was. Crazy. Why would you accept terms from the NCAA, Chad?
I'm very confused by it. So Kirk Ferentz has been suspended for one game, along with a former, is he current or he's a Wisconsin assistant at the time. Then I think he's still at Wisconsin. The recruitment of Cade McNamara, where illegal tampering happened.
So and Ferentz is gladly accepting this. Here's Ferentz. Discussing how he's taking the punishment.
Say this, I think there's some unique circumstances surrounding this particular case, but the bottom line is it was impermissible contact. That's what the investigation's about, and the facts are the facts, and so there's a line, and I crossed that line. I made a bad error in judgment, and I'm just going to take ownership, and I'm not lumping it with anything else. This is something, and to me, this whole issue really is about a judgment or a decision that I made that's unfortunate, and we just want to address it, and then we want to move forward. Yep.
One of the most solid dudes in college football is just I'll take a game.
Yeah, so clearly they have him on some sort of text message or call or on tape or something that's saying something or doing something that's really over the top arrogant about the whole situation and how he pursued Cade McNamara. Here's what I would say about it, though. First off, I'd pose the question, who cares?
Right.
Like, who really cares? Michigan did not want Cade McNamara. He was not going to be their starter. J.J. McCarthy was going to be their starter. Oh, by the way, they just won a national title with J.J. McCarthy. So what if a coach goes to a quarterback who's injured for the season, knowing that seeing the current quarterback on the field means he's not going to play at that school, he's going to enter the portal. If he gets in that a little bit early before I just don't care enough about any of this anymore. I assume every program's doing this.
Well, didn't the quarterback that was injured, was it NC State or somewhere where the guy was injured, he wasn't going to be available for the rest of the season, so he just went ahead and admitted he was going to enter the portal after the season and left. I don't know if it was NC State or somewhere else. You and I bashed him for that. But I mean, of course, if you know you're out, you're injured.
Well, and then once they do it, the coach can talk. So they're saying he contacted before he even entered the portal. But if you know they're going to be in the portal and he leaves anyways, it's a no harm, no foul type thing. Like if you go, here's an example. If you are seen as a head coach to have called someone months before they enter the portal and you're trying to sway them away from a place and there is text evidence, email evidence, phone recordings of you're making up lies about that program, you're saying this and that about what they're up to, and you take one of their starters, you should get suspended probably for more than one game. If you take a guy who's injured, who isn't going to start there anyways, who everyone in America knows is going to enter the portal at some point, and he goes from Michigan to Iowa. Sorry, Iowa fans, step down.
Yeah.
Michigan to Iowa, especially in that offense.
Yes.
Who cares? I mean, I bet there's a ton of Group of 5 programs that are contacting all sorts of players that aren't getting playing time.
Yes.
Or are hurt for the season at Power 5 schools.
Backup quarterbacks.
Power 4 schools. I still got to get used to that. But they're probably going to them all the time and saying, hey, come down here. Come to Southern Miss.
Yes.
Come wherever.
Hey, you're a quarterback.
Play.
Come to Ole Miss.
And
we've got plenty of quarterbacks here.
Do I get outraged enough thinking a guy needs to serve a 1-game suspension for it? No, I don't care.
Kirk Ferentz.
No harm, no foul. I got Kirk Ferentz back on this one right now.
Yeah.
Without knowing the details of what all he did.
I crossed the line. I'm like, man, have you been watching what happened to Michigan?
Now, we could get details about this tomorrow and be like, okay, yeah, he deserved a 1-game suspension for whatever he did. But I still look at it as what is the cost of the action? And to me, it is something that would have happened regardless.
Yeah.
And Michigan lost nothing. Iowa gained something, but he got hurt. No harm, no foul. Keep playing. Playing the game.
Agreed.